vote. What is your phone number? Just the last 3 digits.
Do we have everybody now?
Oh, wait, I think. Okay, I see you. All right, you're here. So promote to panelist.
Is everybody in?
All right, you're in now. Okay, I'll hang up.
Everybody's in?
I'm showing 9 attendees, and Mr. Vogue is now on as a panelist.
Okay.
Uh,
And we're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with the pledge of the flag, followed by a moment of silence, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Griffith? Mr. Haas?
Here.
Ms. Howe? Here. Ms. McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Ms. Radel? Ms. Radel?
She's sick.
Ms. Sedman?
Here.
Mr. Schnee?
Present.
Mr. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Vogt?
Here.
Mr. McGinley?
Present.
I'm present.
Okay, the first meetings this evening is a public hearing. Public hearings in regards to report ordinance amending the 2021 fiscal year budget for Luzerne County. This is in regards to the district attorney's auto theft position. We had an introduction of the ordinance our last meeting. This is a public hearing, and later on this evening there will be hopefully a final vote on this ordinance. Members of the public who would like to speak in regards to the proposed ordinance? Anyone in the public who would like to speak to the proposed ordinance? One more time, members of the public who would like to speak to the proposed ordinance? If not, do we have a motion for adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Howe, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Urban? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition, any abstentions? None heard, motion is carried. We'll move right into the voting session. Call to order. We just did the pledge and the moment of silence, so we won't repeat that. Roll call, please, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Griffith is absent. Mr. Haas?
Here.
Ms. Howe? Here. Ms. McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Ms. Radel is absent. Ms. Sedman?
Here.
Mr. Schnee?
Present.
Mr. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Vogt?
Here.
Mr. McGinley?
Present.
9 of 11.
Thank you. There's no recognitions or proclamations.
Mr. McGinley, move to suspend the bylaws requiring presence of a majority of the members to be present, physically present. It's not on the agenda, but I think we need to do it today. We only have 5 people
Yeah,
here.
we only have 5 people present.
So I make the motion to suspend the bylaws in that regard.
Second.
Ms. Hock makes a motion in regards to the bylaws for the number of members present. Mr. Sneed seconded that. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. We have a motion to adopt the voting session agenda.
So.
Mr. Perry, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Howe?
Second.
On the question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Haas.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I would move that we remove item number 2 from the agenda. Council voted to to make sure this law firm was not on the approved panel last year. We voted for, at that time, for a year's removal from that panel, and that time has not lapsed yet. So I think we should at the very least postpone it until that time, but most certainly not have on the agenda tonight.
Okay, Mr. Haas would like to remove number 2 from the agenda. Roll call, if you want to remove it, vote yes. If you do not want to remove it, vote no.
Do we need a second? Just,
Mr. Haas made the motion. Do we have a second for that motion to remove it?
Second.
Mr. Urban. Roll call, please. Yes means it stays on the agenda. No means it's removed.
No, the motion was to remove it. So yes would be to remove it.
Correction? If you vote yes, it's removed. If you vote no, it stays on the agenda. Roll call.
Mr. Haas,
Yes, to remove.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott, Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Radel, excuse me, Ms. Edmond,
No,
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
No.
Mr. McGinley.
No.
5 yes, 4 no.
It's removed. 5-4. Back to the motion to approve the voting session agenda. Mr. Perry, Ms. Howe?
question, Mr. McGinley.
Well,
Mr.
yes. why not?
Mr. McGinley, does Mr. Haas know when that day is?
Well, I don't know. Mr. Haas, do you have a date?
Well, that would be an easy find. I can research that, but it was in October sometime.
Okay,
October? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McGinley, I'd like my vote to reflect that be brought up again in October. My vote was
Okay,
because of the 1 year that we did vote
okay,
to suspend it.
very good. October will be, then we'll get the right date and have it on the agenda at that time.
Mr. Chair, that's exactly what I thought too.
Okay.
That's what I was.
So we have, Mr. Perry made the motion to approve the agenda. Ms. Howe made the second. With the removal of number 2, are you still fine with that, Mr. Perry, Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
In opposition, any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. Public comment on agenda items. Members of the public who would like to speak in regards to agenda items. Hearing none, we'll move down to the motion to adopt or approve the minutes from the August 17th meeting.
Mr. McGinley,
1 second, please. Do we have a motion?
Present.
so,
Mr. Snee,
second,
Ms. Saban? On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
aye,
Any in opposition?
No.
Mr. Urban? Any abstentions? Moving down to the next minutes, August 24th. Do we have a motion?
Present.
motion,
Mr. Snee? And Ms. Saban again?
yes,
On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition?
No.
Mr. Urban? Any abstentions? Motion carries. One other item, Mr. DeLuca, would you respond to the executive session?
Yes, council met in executive session on Friday, September 10th at 4 p.m. Received a report from the acting county manager and legal counsel related to the progress of the children and youth investigation. And then we met again in executive session today at approximately 5:15, 5:30 until about 6 p.m. and reviewed the matter of Hazuri versus Luzerne County. Received a report from and a recommendation from council assigned to that matter.
Thank you. Going over to the agenda items number 1.
Mr. McGinley, just one quick thing for old business.
Excuse me, see,
Old
it's hard
business.
with your mask, it's a little hard.
Old business, please.
Go ahead.
Just want to go on the record that I attended an Avoca Borough meeting last week regarding the Leo contract. There was a contract that was sent out to council by the airport executive director to county council at one point in time when I asked for executed copies or legitimate copies of the agreement between the airport board and Avoca Borough. There was one copy that was not signed, that was never executed, that was sort of leading us to believe that was a copy of a contract that seemed to be in effect. To me, that was very misleading. When I presented it to Avoca Borough officials, they didn't know anything about it. They never saw it. I take a little bit of issue with that, you know, as a council member and an elected official here in Luzerne County, I feel like that I was misled by the actual airport board and the executive director of the airport authority. Quite honestly, I would like to see that maybe opened up, maybe investigated a little bit further, possibly a forensic audit in the near future of what went on, what transpired. We did get a copy of the actual executed agreement from 2014 and the more recent one that was signed by the DA and the executive was done on August 31st. However, the date of the contract shows August 1st. I don't recall county council making a vote sort of retroactively, putting the effect date as August 1st on that particular contract. I mean, that vote was actually later than August 1st. So it kind of rolled back that contract. If that is the case, I want to see who got paid and who's paying them and how that transpired for the entire month of August. Something, like I said, really stinks about this particular deal. The copy that we got that was never executed had the wrong Avoca Borough address on it, even though it was dated July of last year. It had 752 Main Street, which is a parking lot. That's their old borough building. Their current address is 950. So under, contract law, I don't think it would have been legal. There were, things that I think, like I said, this council was misled and sort of had a gun to our head to vote on a contract. There has to be a motive somewhere, for something. I haven't put my finger on it quite yet. I have an idea after talking to one former official in Avoca on what may be transpiring, but I'll save that for another day, another time.
Mr. McGinley. Oh,
Yes.
this is Mauro. We have a note that Mr. Rabo had asked for public comment, but we had missed him. I don't know if what options council has at this point.
We called for it 3 times, and was he on?
He was on the system, yes.
Was it regards to the agenda items? Put him on. Put Mr. Rabel on.
Okay, and I've also got Maria Giacchetti with the same complaint.
Who's that?
Maria Giacchetti.
Okay.
All
Put
right,
Mr.
so I'm
Rabel on,
gonna
please.
put Mr. Rabo on now. And Mr. Rabo, you can unmute yourself, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Rabo speaking. I tried to get on, but the unmute tab was not made available to the public to speak.
Okay, go ahead with your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards to the real estate for the Pew agreement, I just wanted to reflect on the fact that the real estate committee and the council as a whole discussed the process by which that the parcels would be sold. And I think that it was reflected clearly that you had the real estate committee work on this process, and the council as a whole, voted on it or will vote on it now, as far as how it's disposed or dispersal of the sale. I think that it needs to be made uniformly throughout, for other parcels and other county parcels to be sold in a similar way, not just, one not just a case by case basis, but, uniformly. I hope that this process will be enforced uniformly with all other parcels that the county sells, whether it's by repository or tax sale auction. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeMauro, who's the other person, please?
I have Ms. Giacchetti. I'm just clicking hers. She can unmute now.
Thank you. Maria Giacchetti, Avenue in Hazleton. My comment is.
You'll have to speak up, please, and would you please enunciate your name a little clearer?
Yeah.
So we can put it to the record.
Better? Is this better? Maria Giacchetti, 549 Kiefer Avenue, Hazleton. My comment is in regard to the land bank. I did run for mayor about 2 years ago in Hazleton.
Land bank for Hazleton?
Yes.
That's not on the agenda.
I thought this was our moment to comment upon non-agenda.
No, non-agenda comes after the voting session.
Oh, fine. Okay, I'll do that afterwards. Sorry. I'm very sorry about that.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go back to number 1. Motion to introduce the ordinance amending the intergovernmental agreement, the public township for the repair and dedication of roads in accordance with the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Law, Act 177 of 1996. Do we have a motion?
Presented.
Mr. Sneed, do we have a second for Mr. Sneed?
Second.
Ms. Howard? So this is an introduction of the ordinance. We need 4 votes to introduce it. There's no discussion with the introduction. Roll call, please.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott, Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Could you be a little louder, Ms. McDermott, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman, I think she stepped out.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman, Mr. McGinley,
Yes,
8 yes.
okay. The motion, the ordinance is introduced. Going down to number 3. Number 2 is removed from the agenda. Motion to adopt an ordinance amending 2021 fiscal year budget for the Luzerne County. And this is for the district attorney's position that we talked about at the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Howe and Mr. Sneed. On the question? Roll call, please.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes,
Unanimous.
thank you. Number 4, motion to adopt a resolution ratifying the declaration of disaster emergency for the period from September 1 to September 5, 2021, that is executed by the acting Luzerne County manager on September 1, 2021, in response to Hurricane Ida and its impact on the county. We have a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Howe, we have a second.
Second.
Mr. Perry, on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Abstain for previous reasons.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes,
8 yes, 1 abstention.
thank you. Motion to adopt a resolution approving the settlement of the pending litigation in the matter of Missouri versus Luzerne County. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Leanne.
Ms. McDermott, do we have a second?
Yes.
Ms. Saban,
Yes.
on the question? Roll call, please.
Ms. Edmond,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Abstain, previous reasons.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
yes,
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Moving down to number 6, motion to adopt a resolution providing payment in lieu of taxes with Indelible Housing Incorporated.
Presented.
Mr. Sneed, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Howe? On the question. Roll call, please.
On the question, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Haas. Go ahead.
Yeah, when Attorney Hagan was here representing the Indelible last week, or at the last session, I asked him if they were willing to, again, change up the pilot in the advent of some kind of reassessment or any changes in that. And waiting to hear if he's in the audience tonight, he can speak to that.
He is here in the audience. Mr. Hagan, would you like to respond to that, please?
Do you need that?
That small,
Yeah.
that's the microphone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Haas, would you repeat your question?
Sure. I had an issue with the pilot, the fact that it would just be a very permanent plan in case we had some kind of reassessment or a change in the tax structure here, whatever would cause that. If Indelible would be willing to increase their pilot accordingly. That was my issue last meeting.
So I conferred with my clients, and the purpose for the pilot is to fix the tax rate into the future and adjust it based on an index, be that the consumer price index or some market-based index that we can all agree on. If there's a countywide reassessment, that may impact the assessment of the property, but it won't impact the pilot payment unless the change in use occurs. So the pilot is contemplated to be in perpetuity so long as the use continues as proposed, which is affordable housing for those people who qualify.
Okay, so no.
Effectively, as long as the pilot agreement remains in place, then the answer is no. But if the pilot terminates because the use changes, then it would be subject to whatever assessment happens as a result of a countywide reassessment or something else.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Wow.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes. I don't see the acting manager's name on the signature line, so,
It will be, it's a resolution.
well, and I only see Chris's and Tim's name.
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution.
Then abstain.
Okay.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
No.
Ms. Howe? Yes. Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Edmond,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Okay. Motion to adopt the ordinance amending Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority's Articles of Incorporation.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Howe. And Mr. Sneed. On the question? There has
Yes,
been
Mr. McGinley? I have a
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I've gone over this several times, and I don't know, maybe I'm just not knowledgeable in this area. But why isn't the language that they have in there now appropriate, or can't be used for that, for what they want to do?
Mr. Bellman, I think you're on the line? You want to respond to that? Oh, excuse me, he's in the back of the room. Mr. Feldman, did you hear Ms. Saban's statement?
Yes, and I'm going to take my mask off.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me tonight. And I am here to answer any questions with regard to our proposed amendment. And with regard to the question, I talked with our chairman. I talked with our solicitor, Chris Slusser, this afternoon, and we're in agreement. Although the suggested language, it's very helpful. We were created under the Pennsylvania Municipal Authorities Act, and so we are obligated to perform our operation in accordance with the statutes. And with regard to how we fund our operation, that's already addressed in the statutes. And so we feel the additional language would be redundant and perhaps be confusing.
No,
If
my
I-
question
if I
is
may-
about
if I may-
The original language.
Ms. Saban certainly can
Okay.
offer. Ms. Saban, go ahead.
No, I think that was Miss Crocomo.
I just wanted to,
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Houck, please go ahead. I didn't, I was
Oh,
late.
I thought it was safe. Go ahead.
I just
I was
want to make
like-
sure Mr. Feldman is addressing the correct language, because the proposed language that's actually here is the one that expands it to protect the residents of Luzerne County as a whole. Now, there was another proposal that came forward that dealt with some more specific things, but we haven't actually put that in. So are you saying that you don't think it's necessary to amend the articles of incorporation at all?
No, I apologize. I misspoke. As written here, the section 5, we agree with that. We received some additional language from Chipman McGinley, which stated that all revenue from the levy fee will fund only projects and activities related to the Wyoming Valley levy system. All other projects and activities undertaken by the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority will be funded by revenue sources separate from the levy fee. Although that language is correct, we feel it's already addressed in the statutes, and to add this new language would be redundant and perhaps confusing.
Okay.
Confusing for whom?
Sheila's,
Sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Saban's question though was about why we need to amend it at all.
Right.
She said she was looking at the original language
Oh, okay.
and, section 5 and asking why we need to add the section about protecting the residents of Luzerne County as a whole. Why do we need to do that? Why is it not sufficient just as it is? Why can you not help, say, Duryea or any other municipality that's not under the Wyoming Valley Flood Protection Authority based on the language that exists? That's the question.
Well, that's right. And we were approached by Duryea Borough for their assistance with their flood protection system. And we can provide that assistance to our mitigation program, but we can't take over their operation and maintenance of the system because we are restricted to the Wyoming Valley flood protection system. But by revising our articles of incorporation to include Duryea and perhaps other communities that might step forward for our assistance, we would be able to do that.
Right. So it's because the original language restricts you to Wyoming Valley.
That is
It
correct.
does not allow you to go outside of the Wyoming Valley system.
That is correct. It does
Okay.
not.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman, what you said would be confusing. Why would it be confusing? I'm sorry. Ken, muffled there.
Well, it's we feel it's already addressed in the statutes, and it was addressed when the levy fee was first enacted. We were sued by the municipality of Kingston and others, and in Judge Hugh's opinion, he went into further discussion on the matter. So we feel it's already well addressed, to not only Judge Hugh's opinion but through the statutes.
Okay. When I spoke with you, you seem to have no issue with that.
The language is not incorrect, but we just feel it's unnecessary.
And when Chairman Munuzzi called me, he had no issue with that.
Well, I have an issue with it, and I sent an email out about it. I think that it does not fit, and I don't think it's appropriate for the articles of incorporation, which are
That's
supposed to
good.
state the
Ms.
general.
Hock, I think I had the floor.
Sure, go ahead.
And that was not expressed at that time that there was a problem or an issue. And now all of a sudden there seems to be some issues. And I have no problem with whatever we have to do. But it was this last minute flurry has left myself with a lot of questions.
Well, Mr. McGinley, in all fairness, we didn't see the additional language until Sunday afternoon.
Well,
I sent it for clarification purposes onto the Flood Protection Authority, and their solicitor rendered an opinion.
but
And
would be-
that opinion is that it's already in the municipal code, and it was affirmed by Judge Hughes in 2014. So the language that you're proposing is already apparently covered by both statute and a case.
Can I ask when he offered that opinion?
2014. And
No, when did the solicitor offer that opinion? For
this afternoon, because I had forwarded your inquiry to the Flood Protection Authority, just for clarification purposes.
Okay, so it was after the agenda had already been put out.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Haas.
And it's actually directed to you. I'd like to know why did you propose the language change? What are your specific concern or concerns?
My specific concerns, I've been approached by several constituents, mainly people who reside in the flood-prone areas of Wyoming Valley. And they're concerned about the fact that their fees that they've been paying for these last many years have been directed to protect Wyoming Valley, and they don't want to see that money diverted in any manner to any other projects.
Mr. Bellman, can you speak to that concern?
Yes, I can, and I can guarantee as the executive director that would never happen. I mean, there's approximately 12 communities behind the Wyoming Valley Flood Protection System, and the levy fee goes towards the maintenance and operation of that 16-mile flood protection system. We can't use those monies for any other purpose. And if we do take over the operation and maintenance activities of the Duryea levy, Duryea Borough will, they will provide a separate funding source, for us to be reimbursed for those activities, which would be totally separate from the levy fee.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know if that satisfies you, Mr. Chairman.
No, it doesn't, because I was not aware of the case that they're citing from that Judge Hughes resided over. And I haven't seen that language at all. So as a result, I still have some questions. I mean, they're citing a case that I have no information about. I don't feel it's redundant. I feel it's a statement in there is to clarify and make sure that many years from now, there is no question about what funding source for Wyoming Valley versus any other projects.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Procedurally, no one has made a motion to amend the resolution or the ordinance as it stands right now.
Right, you're correct.
So, I mean, nobody has made a proposal to change the language that we have been looking at for probably a month now. My opposition to changing it, to adding any mention of the levy fee into it, is that it memorializes the levy fee in the foundational documents of this authority. And I think that if there's ever a chance of getting rid of the levy fee, and I'm one of the people who pays it, I think if there's ever a chance to get rid of it, I think putting it into the Articles of Incorporation makes it less likely that it will ever be removed, because now it will be in the foundational document for the authority itself.
Anyone else, Mr. Urban?
The other issue is why not just create another authority that just separates the two systems, and then you can have the same players, of expertise if you want to appoint people to another authority, but to take care of the Duryea system and the Lackawanna River, system versus the Susquehanna. You can have the same expertise and the same experts. They could sit on another authority with a separate funding stream with the same players, but maybe look at that avenue. That way you can separate the pots of money, and then there's no question that it's going to be commingled.
Well, the name of the authority is the Luzerne County Flood Protection
I
Authority.
understand.
It's not the Wyoming Valley Flood Protection Authority.
Sure.
So I think that there is an obligation to help out. I mean, other municipalities in this county may have issues that need to be addressed. And I think they should be able to come to the County Flood Protection Authority for some kind of assistance. And maybe not the kind of assistance that's provided with the levy fee to the Wyoming Valley system, but I don't know that there's another place that they could go to. I don't think we need another level of bureaucracy in the middle of that, when they certainly can offer their assistance to them without making it, without mixing the money.
I mean, they have their own now, right?
We have our own.
No, I'm talking Duryea. I mean, they have their own. Do they have their own separate authority on a borough level?
No, it's all handled by the council members.
Could they legally set up one on their own? And then you could provide like a contractual assistance with them?
I'm not an attorney. I don't have.
Well, I mean, that would be the other avenue, is that they set up their own and they have their own funding mechanism, and they can obviously solicit the services of other experts within the county, and partner up with them as the flood protection authority. I mean, to look at it from a different perspective or a different lens, to change all of this language. There's nothing wrong with being a good partner, but it is a totally different system. So, I think part of it is that certain people don't want to pay a fee and then find that, some of the money's being diverted and you're not going to be there forever. And people change. And so the language can change in the future. This council is going to change in the future. So it could be tailored anyway in the future, obviously by majority rule.
But this went through the courts.
Yeah, I understand that.
And the whole setup of the levy fee went through the courts.
Sure. And none of us
So
have seen that case.
that's not going away.
You're right, it's not going away.
Right. I think, there's still a lot of unknowns too.
I make a motion to postpone.
Second.
Mr. Urban?
Before-
Motion to postpone.
Can I speak to the original question, Mr. Chair, before we vote on that postponement?
Absolutely.
Yes, so I totally see what you and especially what Mrs. Haupt bring up. I think they're very important questions. Mr. Bellman, just to clarify, if the council does not approve this, then Duryea cannot harness those federal funds to mitigate flooding in their area, correct?
No, they can, through the mitigation program, we can still provide them assistance to do their levee rehabilitation, but we cannot take over their operation and maintenance activities. We cannot.
Well, isn't their issue also that they have to bring their levies up to a certain standard?
Well, that's right. Right now, they're not accredited because there's deficiencies.
Right, and so their residents are going to be paying more for flood insurance? because of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
are significant repercussions to not being able to provide assistance to this community.
Yes.
Well, I think
Yes,
there's
good.
significant
Question.
repercussions.
If we vote to postpone this, we can hopefully iron these out over the next couple of weeks, perhaps.
Well, I would hope that we'll have some discussion and get a copy of that
Yes,
decision that was rendered by the courts, so we can see what the language is, which I'm not aware of.
We
And then-
can provide that. And if
Okay.
there are specific questions, you can send them on to me and I will distribute them to the appropriate individuals, but we can get you that
Okay.
case.
I think, and just to summarize, if I could, Mr. Chair, I mean, we desperately want to help
Go
out
ahead.
Duryea. I was just going to say, we desperately want to help out Duryea and all our communities that are, especially in those lowlands and unprotected lands. But at the same time, we want fairness and equality here with all the ratepayers that are currently paying into the system and assurances. So I really think if we can answer all those, I think we can make it work.
My suggestion was to ask the Flood Protection Authority to amend its bylaws or its operating procedures to specifically state how the levy fee is used, so that it would be immortalized in writing somewhere besides the court case. But I think that would be a much better place to put it than in the Articles of Incorporation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone. If you vote yes, it's postponed. If you vote no, we will continue to discuss and potentially vote on this article. Roll call?
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
No,
Ms. McDermott, Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
No.
Ms. Edmond,
Yes,
Mr. Shnee,
No,
Mr. McGinley,
Yes,
6 yes, 3 no.
thank you.
Thank you.
Postponed, which means any questions that you have, we will forward to Ms. Crocamo, that will be forwarded to you yourself and your board members, Mr. Feldman.
Thank you,
And I
Mr.
think you
Chair.
have a meeting next week, am I correct?
On the 21st, yes.
Hopefully, maybe we can get some of this settled and do it back
Very
to the
good.
28th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Number 8, motion to approve the assistant clerk job description. Do we have a motion?
present,
Mr. Sneed,
second,
do we have a second?
second,
Ms. Saban?
Yep.
Thank you.
On the question? Roll call?
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Haas, Ms. Howe,
yes,
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
yes,
Ms. Edmond,
yes,
Mr. Shnee,
yes,
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Number 9, motion to introduce the ordinance establishing the Luzerne County Arts Advisory Board. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Perry, do we have a second?
second,
Ms. Saban?
yes,
Introduction of an ordinance, we need 4 votes to introduce it, no discussion prior to the introduction. Roll call, please.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
yes,
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
yes,
Ms. Edmond,
yes,
Mr. Shnee,
yes,
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Number 10, motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a sale of county-owned properties to Alan and Brenda Pugh. Do we have a motion?
so moved,
Ms. Howe, do we have a second?
second,
Mr. Sneed, on the question. Roll call, please.
Ms. Howe,
yes,
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
yes,
Ms. Edmond,
yes,
Mr. Shnee,
yes,
Mr. Urban,
Abstain.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes,
8 yes, 1 abstention.
thank you. Public comment on non-agenda items, Mr. McKay?
I have 2 items. I'm glad you brought up flood control. I live in a flood control area, which the flood people is gonna tab a lot of the houses in Exeter Park for their fee, which they don't pay now. But I live by Four Seasons Golf Course, and in the last month, it's been half of the golf course is shut down because it's all flooded. So I wish this guy would stay here to hear me say it, that eventually the houses are going to get flooded because the golf course is shut down now. The back part of it, 9 holes, is shut down, and nothing has been done for years. It floods every couple of years. Yet he's going to put a tax or levy on the people with flood levy fees, and yet he can't. We don't have any protection, you know. So I wish you can put that on your agenda. That
Well, Mr. McKay, they have a meeting next Tuesday, the Flood Protection Authority.
Am I allowed to come to it?
Absolutely, it's a public meeting.
Okay, one more thing on the agenda. About 2 years ago, I come to council about the Water Street Bridge. The Water Street Bridge is currently shut down about a month and a half. Well, I live in the area between Pittston and Exeter for 73 years, and I used the bridge a lot in my lifetime. Now, we don't know what, county council, PennDOT, nobody's saying anything about what's going to happen. We hear rumors. The mailman, he lives up in Gooseboro or something today. He was telling me that he heard a rumor that the both bridges are going to be tore down and a new bridge is going to be put in between the Water Street and the Fort Jenkins Bridge. So does council have any information on what's going on? It's a county-owned bridge, so I think we should.
County-owned bridge, but PennDOT is the one that shut it down, Mr. McKay.
I can briefly answer that. Just generally, the bridge was shut down by PennDOT. They are doing an assessment. We did not get that report yet. What you heard are rumors. No decision has been made about either bridge.
Okay, in the past, when they shut the bridge down on Wyoming Avenue by Antonio's, there was always a sign, don't make a right turn because it's a hazard with the bridge shut down. So what's happening now, the traffic is coming north and they're in the right-hand lane to go over the Water Street Bridge, and they decide that they can't make a right-hand turn because the bridge is shut down. So they're pulling in the path of the ongoing traffic for the Fort Jenkins Bridge, and somebody's going to get killed. I brought it to the head guy in the county's attention. I called PennDOT about it, and nobody wanted to hear anything about it. But in the past, they did have signs up, do not make a right turn, the bridge is shut down. So I wish somebody could look into it and find out why there's no sign there to inform strangers and that they can't make a right-hand turn. So what they're doing now is at the last minute, they're deciding that they're going to go straight and they're in the line of traffic for the Fort Jenkins Bridge. Somebody's going to get killed in the meantime. So as soon as county, because we have 2 council members right now in the immediate area, Matt Bogue and Kendra lives in Exeter. So I think there's enough attention there that they're affected by it too. So I think we should get in contact with PennDOT and see what is going to be done,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We had a young lady from Hazleton who was on a little earlier. Are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I am.
Would you repeat your name again, please?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Maria Giacchetti of Kiefer Avenue in Hazleton.
Go ahead.
Okay, I did run for mayor 2 years ago, and the issue of the land bank I was asked about a number of times. At that time, I commented that I think it's a great idea if it's handled appropriately. Sorry, my phone just went off. And so we're moving forward with that in Hazleton, it appears, but right now we have a temporary board that does not have enough members, according to what we should have on the board for the land bank. Can we drop that phone into a barrel of water or something? They would call. Okay, hold on one second. My dear, I'm on Zoom. I can't talk to you right now. I'll talk to you in 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's my daughter on Long Island. She calls about 5 times a day. Okay, my point is, I am in favor of land banks if it's handled appropriately according to ordinance. We have an ordinance for this. It does not appear that that is happening in Hazleton at this time with the temporary board. In fact, none of this has been approved by City Council, and according to the ordinance, moving forward with the land bank, this needs to pass through council. So I'm worried about, simply as a homeowner, I'm actually worried about many of these things that are being done on the fly, including the land bank and the legal repercussions that homeowners in Hazleton may have. I think we need to put this on pause for the moment until we have a full board, until we're following the legal ordinance, until we are sure that in this most recent land bank acquisition, until we are sure that the homeowner has been notified and been given an appropriate chance to make good on his taxes. We don't know any of that now. So what I am seeing down the line, if we move forward without dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's, is that we will become legally liable if, in my opinion, for not following our own law, for not following our own ordinance. So I'm asking you to put this on pause, to stop the deed transfer until we have all our ducks in a row, until we know that we're doing it legally, appropriately, correctly. That's all, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, board.
Thank you. Other members of the public?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Rabo speaking.
Go ahead, Mr. Rabo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As someone who was present during the discussions by the State Blight Task Force when the land bank law was created and then passed into law, I find, there's a tale of two cities. Pittston City, as you remember, Mr. Chair, and other members of council who were present during the time when Pittston's land bank was established, the Northeast Regional Land Bank, they had all of their paperwork. They had their board members, they had their ordinance, they appointed their board members. The Pittston City Council appointed the board members. Their board had the bylaws and the articles of incorporation and their initial budget presented to the county council at the time when they asked for their tax abatement. A few months ago, the mayor of Hazleton asked for a similar abatement, but had none of the necessary paperwork that is needed to show that there is a land bank authority established. And he was very belligerent to you and the rest of council. And so here we are, a few months later, the mayor of Hazleton took it upon himself to purchase a property under the guise of the land bank that was established by city council, but as the previous speaker said, no board was appointed by the Hazleton City Council. So the mayor arbitrarily, unilaterally called two people as a board and summarily decided to make a purchase under the land bank authority. And also the tax claim office never got anything in terms of your input on, as a council, as far as what to do with Hazleton City in their land bank if they actually have a board. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, you don't have a land bank authority unless the state gives you the paperwork saying that they received their ordinance and the articles of incorporation. They will send the correspondence that they received such information. Also, for your edification, the Hazleton Redevelopment Authority is not a real authority either. It's an extension of the city government, similar to the public transit, because they never submitted their paperwork. So either way, Mr. Chairman and members of council, the Hazleton, so-called Hazleton City Land Bank is anathema. It's not even formed properly. So therefore, it is, in my humble opinion, maybe this Office of Law can research this and clarify this. I don't believe that the purchase is valid. So I think that the deed transfer should be put on hold until there is findings of fact in terms of if this land bank authority under a temporary board can be done under existing city ordinance and state law. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other members of the public?
Mr. McKinley, may I respond to Mark Rabo's comment earlier in the meeting?
Mr. McDermott, go ahead.
In regards to the real estate committee, any of the purchase packets that were given to me, I addressed, and I do have two of them that are going to be in this Thursday evening's meeting, the real estate committee meeting. So anything that's brought to me, I certainly try to get out there. If there's a packet that's submitted, I do not want to ignore it or avoid it. So certainly we want to be able to move that forward. Getting rid of the county-owned property is, well, that's what I'm trying to do right now, trying to get that to go forward. And if anybody has anything that they're interested in, then, certainly let me know. If there was something that was submitted and we don't know about it, please send an email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public? We have a motion for adjournment.
Presented.
Mr. Sneed, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. We're now going to the work session. We call it to order. We already did the pledge and a moment of silence. Roll call, please, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Griffith is absent. Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Howe? Yes. Ms. McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Ms. Radel, excuse me, she's absent. Ms. Sedman? Ms. Sedman?
Go ahead.
Mr. Schnee?
Here.
Mr. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Bo?
Here.
Mr. McGinley?
Present?
Ms. Sedman is.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
She said she's
Not feeling well.
Mr. Vo, do you want to present the, excuse me, I'm way ahead of myself. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Ms. Howe, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition, any abstentions, none heard. Mr. Vo, do you want to introduce the presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you. So this comes from County Cares, and the date placement couldn't be better. Today is National Sober Day, a day that embraces people living with sobriety. And September is National Recovery Month. So County Cares want to invite someone to talk about their story of recovery. We have Brittany with us, who is in long-term recovery and is now employed as a CRS, which is a Certified Recovery Specialist for the Robinson Center. So she's going to talk briefly about her story. Laurel, why don't you, her name is Brittany, in the chat.
One moment, please.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Brittany. Nice to meet all of you. So my clean date is April 30th, 2019. And what recovery means to me is the process of healing through the mind, the body, and the spirit. So I'm just gonna touch base on what my addiction, like where it has led me to, and the benefits of being in sobriety and where I'm at today. So my addiction led me to places I never thought I'd ever be. I found myself homeless. I was living on the street. I was living at junkyards and just feeling I had so much shame and so much guilt. And I wasn't in denial that I had a problem. I knew that I needed the help, but there was so much stigma surrounding addiction. And I knew in my mind at that time that if I were to get help, everyone would know that I had failed. I would feel that I let people down. It really got to the point where my rock bottom, they say my rock bottom had this trapdoor, and I had to try to find some way to get out of the spot that I was in. I had called Choices at the time, which is a rehab in the Kingston area that I believe had shut down. But I had to break away from my pride and my ego just to accept the help, the treatment that was available to me. I went into Choices April 29th, 2019, and that really started my journey of recovery. from there, I was able to take in as much knowledge while I was there to learn how to cope and learn how to deal with life on life's terms outside of those walls. When I had left Choices, I had gone into a homeless shelter, and I was really at a war, like, with myself, trying to decide if I wanted to go on maintenance or I'm sorry, but I had to really take a step back and check what my motives were and realize that I would be doing things for all the wrong reasons, because there was a point in my life where I did have a substantial amount of clean time before I relapsed, and I had to take that into consideration and just remind myself that I could do this, and just to give myself those affirmations. And from there, I was able to connect with the people in my 12-step recovery. And I was able to find a spot in a sober living home. And I was able to find a sponsor. And I was able to start getting on my feet. I had a bed. I had somewhere to lay my head at night. I began looking for employment, and I began doing things that I needed to just to better my life. I started working with a sponsor, and I was going to meetings, and I was doing intensive outpatient, and I was really doing whatever I could, because I knew that it was a life or death situation. And I was working through the temp agency. I was able to finally work my way towards getting my foot in the door as a housekeeper at a rehab. And I started going through these motions and just knowing that I felt it within myself that I was meant for so much more, that I deserve so much more. And I had to think, and I had to come up with ways to get out of that self-pity, to really give myself that internal motivation that I so desperately needed in order to really grow. And from there, I began making calls. I began getting myself up out of the hole that I have dug myself into. And I made a call to New Roots, and I was referred to the Alta program. I had no education, and I was able to get myself in the GED classes. I was able to learn what the bus schedules were, and I was able to get to where I needed to go, and I was taking care of these responsibilities. And again, I had to, give me one moment. I was really utilizing all the programs that were out there for people who are in recovery. And I was able to get myself set up with the Healthy Moms program. And I was able to get coordinated with a certified recovery specialist of my own. And from there, working with such amazing people and seeing what was available to me because of these people in my life, it made me realize that I wanted to be able to give back the way that this was so freely given to me. After I got my GED, I began working at Pyramid Healthcare in Dallas, which is a drug and alcohol inpatient facility. And working in the recovery field has made me realize that this is what I truly want to do with my life. And it's something that I feel is something that's so genuine. Through my certified recovery specialist, she was able to help me with getting set up with the All One Recovery program. And through there, I was able to get the training I needed to be a certified recovery specialist. I was able to work my program. I've gone through my 12 steps. I've gone to meetings working with a sponsor, and being able to help other people by being a sponsor, it has really opened my eyes to what an amazing life I have today and how grateful I am. And I'm really doing things today that I have never thought possible, all because I am sober and I am in recovery today. I am a certified recovery specialist with the Robinson Counseling Center, and I am very grateful to be working with them. They offer services to individuals suffering from substance use disorder, and they offer counseling services, and they offer certified recovery specialist services, and they offer intensive outpatient group therapy. And I am able to help others today and to just provide them with resources to help them maintain recovery, to really help them with the continuum of care and just meet them where they're at today. And I am very thankful to be able to give back today. I just want to thank all of you for allowing me to be on here and giving me this time to really share a part of my life that's very special to me. And again, thank you. I'm very blessed today.
Well, thank you, Brittany, for your presentation. Thank you for sharing many of the episodes that you went through, and we wish you great luck going forward with your recovery. It sounds like you're on a great path, and we hope that it continues in that manner. But thank you again for sharing with us this evening. Okay. Receive and discuss the division reports. Ms. Corporal.
Good evening. Council received the division report. As usual, it's very extensive, and it shows the depth of the work that the county employees do on a day-to-day basis. I don't want to go through each department, but I do want to recognize certain departments and their responses to the recent tropical storm. First and foremost, EMA worked tirelessly 24 hours around the clock. 911 always working around the clock, and our road and bridge department, and especially Wayne Mitchell. The updates that I provided to council during the storm and its aftermath came from Wayne, who was out and monitoring the roads and bridges. So a special shout out to him. So if council has any particular questions, you can raise them now or follow up, and I will respond accordingly. Thank you.
Any questions from the manager at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
3 questions and a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Hoff.
To start with a comment, hats off to Road and Bridge for patching that stuff in Hanover. A lot of people are really grateful for that. And thanks, Ms. Manager, for shepherding that through too. I really appreciate it on behalf of the people.
Sure.
Just looking at some other things here too. In page 19 of the packet, it's under engineering, the River Commons kayak project. Now it said construction's due for 2022 in early spring. I thought we just approved of a study and an application for that. I didn't think we approved the beginnings of a construction plan. I know it says
No.
it's in the design phase, but what are we looking at there?
Well, it's in the design phase in the project, but the project has not been approved by council. We will be following up with that. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting with Michelle Sparich at the end of the week, and I can follow up with particulars.
Very good. Thanks for that. Question number 2 then is about on page 21, there's an allegation about Avoca boarding house. I know we don't have enforcement authority over our zoning. So who is actually conducting or monitoring that situation? Because that's stuff like that, those illicit things are terrible for neighborhoods.
I don't know if anybody from planning and zoning are on, but what I can tell you is even when I was still the chief county solicitor, I had a long conversation with Matt Jones, and we are going to be very aggressive in trying to reduce the blight and reduce code violations. Attorney Butera has been involved in numerous hearings before magistrates, but I can get you particulars from Matt Jones on that issue.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm very interested in that one. And lastly, a personal question for you, Mr. Crocomo, about the PennDOT bridge tolling. Do we have any updates on that?
No update. I have, my goal is to draft a letter to the governor and to the secretary of PennDOT. I need to make an appointment and have a meeting with leaders from Whitehaven. My thought is to invite the governor and the PennDOT secretary to come to Whitehaven. And if they can't make it, I would like to send them actual photographs or video of the downtown Whitehaven, the intersection coming off of the interstate, because you really have to see it. You have to see what the diversion of the traffic will do to Whitehaven. I know that area. I went to MMI. My vet is in Whitehaven. My family owns property in the Poconos, and we drive on 940 all the time. And I know Whitehaven for years, and I didn't realize it until I actually saw it. And I think that the governor or somebody from his staff or from PennDOT needs to actually see what is going to happen to that community, because it really is, it's just a quaint community, and they really are trying to use their natural beauty with the trails there, not only for the residents, but for people who are visiting Pennsylvania and the Poconos. So that's the plan. I have to put it in action. I have to get the letter drafted. I will send it to council for their review, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks for that. And again, Nescopeck Borough and Salem Township on the west side of the county, they're going to experience some very similar unintended consequences of this bad decision. Like we talked about, Melda, you and I and the rest of the council and members of the public. I don't think there's a single person that wants this. So perhaps if we could get the state legislators on board, even those who voted for this many years ago, to perhaps do something legislatively if your plan doesn't work out there to get the governor's attention.
Right. And I agree. I don't believe there's necessarily one avenue. I think that there's a very legitimate reason to use a multiple avenues to try to change this. And I will follow up with you, Harry, and we'll go forward with it.
Yeah, thanks for the diligence. I really appreciate it.
Okay,
Question,
yes,
Ramilda, I read something in the newspaper this morning, and I wanted to know if it's happening at our prison. I read something about the mandate regarding masks and everything being looked at by the union for the correctional officers in terms of they don't want to abide by it unless the prisoners are also going to abide by it.
I read that as well with the state correctional officers. I have
Right.
not. I haven't received any negative feedback from prison administration
Okay.
or the correction officers and the union. And
Okay.
I get daily updates from the prison as to the inmate population and COVID exposure. So it is amazing that even during the height of COVID, that our prison operated with such great success and didn't have this major outbreak that happened at prisons across not only Commonwealth, but across the country. So they're vigilant. I have to hats off to the administration over at the prison to make sure that not only that, the inmates, are properly treated, but that the staff is as well.
Thank you.
okay. Mr. Swets with the ADP contract, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet is the ADP contract. Council had asked for the original contract, any subsequent contracts, and I provided them. Just to give an update, this would be the final year eligible under the agreement. So this fourth extension, and I realize we're on the work session, but the fourth extension would be the last one eligible. It would cover all of 2022, and that's why I'd asked for this before the budget. Our thinking is that, we're going to be going into the budget. Obviously, we are in the same spot as everything you read in the paper with staffing. It's council's decision, and I will manage the office. And again, I know the vote's not today, but if this is not approved, that leaves us to hire staff at the end of the year, which isn't ideal. So I provided the numbers, the dollar amount, it's $130,000 is pretty much all in. Mr. Urban had asked, and I kind of broke it down weekly, per pay, actually bi-weekly, I'm sorry. It's per person per month. So as employees come and go, there's a slight change. But that's really the issue. Just one statement, and I'll send it to council later. This is worldwide as well. So worldwide statistics from 2015 to 2019 on departments that have either full or some partial or a partial part of payroll done outside the office. 2015, 17%, 2016, 22%, 2017, 20%, 2018, 17%, and 2019, 38%. So as I mentioned in the other meetings, I think the move is away from in-person. I think the change in the tax laws that we've had and may continue to have really makes this more of a specialized field. And I feel that keeping the things the way they are for the 1 year is in our best interest. If we go to all employees or a full RFP or a combination of both for 2022, for the 2023 year, in 2022, I think that would be my suggestion. Any questions that council has, I'll answer tonight.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Ms. Corcoran, number 3, discussion regarding resolution committee and local match for Luzerne County Transportation Authority pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Thank you. This is actually a project that has been in the works for a while. And now it is right to review it. I did reach out to the deputy secretary at PennDOT. I was hoping to get some more information to pass on to council, and we've been missing each other. But the agenda submittal outlines what the original proposal was, and I'd like to be able to get somebody from PennDOT here to speak to council, if that's what council wishes to do. But I think that it would be a very positive project for the area.
Questions for Ms. Corporal?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Haas.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very positive project started by Director Gavlik before he was terminated. And I'm looking at this, and I remember when we were at CCAP and Sheila, I think you were in the meeting with me, that these COVID funds are in a very appropriate use for the local match for LCT. And actually proposed this a few weeks ago that we use those funds to do that for the applicable time. But I think, Ms. Croker, isn't our match somewhere around like $560,000 a year just already in the budget?
There was a match already. And that's why I would like to get somebody from PennDOT here to get really the particulars. This came up in the last maybe week and a half to put it in front of council's attention. And that's why it is in front of council, because it's something that I think that we need to discuss and address. And I will get the particulars of what the match already exists.
Yeah, I think it's around 600,000, somewhere around there. But again, I propose that we use the COVID funds to offset that match, that we could keep that in the general fund. Because I'm looking at this, it's $55 million according to what was said in the agenda packet.
Yes.
For the overall cost. We've already expended $5 million, or at least LCTA has. So I'd like to know, what is their current surplus in their own accounts right now? Because I don't remember them coming to the county and ever asking about this, that saying we would be asked to add an additional match. I just don't recall that, but maybe some of the colleagues remember that better. So again, I don't want this to be a case of, oh, the county has money, so everybody's got their hand out and we don't use it most appropriately. So again, it's not a bad project, but I have some reservations. And I think other members probably do as well.
Sure. And I just wanted to get it on the radar, start the process moving, and I'll get that information about the current surplus and the exact match that you were talking about.
And you could even ask them, where were they planning to get the money originally when this was put forth years ago? So again, it's just found money, and everybody's going to be asking. I understand why they would, but I'd like to see the narrative about that historically too.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Haas, you're correct. I don't think we've ever had an inquiry from the LCTA in this regard. Also, I think that you're right. Mr. Gavlik was the person who initiated much of this. So I don't know. I did read in the paper, and I think probably everybody else did, that they did get some LSA funding. I think it was $350,000 was the amount that I read, and that was to help with the local match. But Ms. Crockwell, if you get that other information and have someone available, that would be helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And if any other council members have any other particular questions, please forward them to me, and I will try to get the answers for you.
Thank you. Number 4, discussion regarding a resolution approving the recommendations of Zigman and Company Ltd. regarding security/bond limits to protect Luzerne County against risk of loss for the calendar year 2022. Do we have anybody available for that?
Yes, we do. Ruth, are you still on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Ruth Morosky Keller from the Zigman Company. We are contracted risk manager, and our job each year is to choose the limit that it would be applicable to the county's bond limits. When we look at what limit should be chosen, we look at the greatest exposure, which is the taxable exposure the county would have for tax duplicates. This year, on the amount of assessed value that the county would be collecting taxes is 19,500,000. And 1/3 of that, which is the insurance industry standard for a bond limit, would be about 6,500,000. However, according to the county, a lot of accounts are direct deposits, so we can reduce that limit in order to save something in the cost of the bond, and also come up with a bond limit for all other exposures for the county. The county has an employee dishonesty bond currently that has what's called faithful performance endorsement. With that, the bond or the crime policy you have, the employee dishonesty bond, picks up the bond coverage and that all the other departments would have, such as county manager, division of head and budget for all what he would do outside of the tax exposure, tax collection processors, the county's council, district attorney, and all other elected, appointed, or acting appointed officials. So when we're looking at the limits, $5 million would be sufficient on the crime coverage that you would have. And then we would place 2 different bonds on the taxable exposure. You have the $5 million for tax duplicates that your office manager, tax administrator would have. And then the division of head and budget finance has a smaller tax exposure for the processes that he would handle. So in looking at the exposures for 2022, it is identical to the limits that we had chosen for this year. Is there any questions?
Questions? Anyone? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Number 5, discussion regarding a resolution approving contract with broker USI Insurance Services for insurance brokerage services for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. Do we have someone who?
Yes, I asked Dave Parsnick to present the findings of the committee. The committee was comprised of Dave Parsnick, Andy Riley, Eddie O'Neill, Mark Mikowski, and Michelle Sparish. I think we also have a representative from USI that's on the meeting as well. So Dave, do you want to advise council as the work from the committee?
Sure.
Chair,
can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Before you is a agenda submittal to approve a contract with USI Insurance Services for the provision of insurance brokerage services for 2022 and 2023 with an optional renewal year for $60,000 annually per year. The requests for proposals were advertised in the Citizen's Voice on July 12th and on July 15th of 2021. RFP was also posted on the county website. The responses were due no later than 4 p.m. on July 26, 2021. 4 brokers submitted proposals in response to the RFP. Virtual interviews were held with each of the 4 brokers who responded, and interviews were conducted on August 25th and 26th. Before the interview, all the committee members reviewed their proposals independently, and ranking sheets were provided to Michelle Sparich after the virtual interviews were conducted. We recommend that USI Insurance Services be the broker of record for 2022. The recommendation is based on an overall ability of the firm to provide the services requested along with the price. It's worth noting that USI Insurance Services are ranked 8 out of the 100 largest brokers of U.S. business in the July-August 2021 edition of Business Insurance. Additionally, USI places more than $30 million in total premiums with travelers in Pennsylvania and over $100 million in the Mid-Atlantic region. They currently have 50 government clients that they are servicing in Pennsylvania, and Lehigh County has been a client of theirs for over 20 years. If there are any questions, I can answer them, or the USI rep, if he's on the meeting, can also answer them.
Yeah. No other USI representatives here in the council meeting room. So
Okay.
If you would like to go to the podium.
I have a question for Mr. Carson.
Sure. Go ahead,
Mr. Parson, I just want to thank you and the committee for a great job. What separates USI Insurance from the other 3 vendors?
Well, in their proposal, the teams that they have assembled to help us with our safety committees, with our getting the best possible premiums we can for the services provided, and also the fact that they do write a lot with travelers, which is one of our biggest providers of insurance for law enforcement and children and youth. So the committee felt that there's something to be said for companies that do write a lot of policies with a certain organization such as Travelers, as far as getting additional discounts that might not be available to another broker who quite honestly doesn't deal in as much business as they do.
Okay.
I have a question, and I don't know if it would be answered by Mr. Parsons or by the representative from the company, but I did go back to the last time that we RFP'd for this, and USI was actually the low bidder 2 years ago. And I'm just wondering why, 2 things. Number one, why USI wasn't the recommended broker at that time. And number 2, 2 years ago, their proposed rate was $35,000, and this time it's $60,000. And I'd like to know why there's such a big discrepancy between those, because the other brokers that had bid both times, some of them had lower bids this time. So
I think the first question probably is for the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Parsons could answer.
Probably the second question is probably for the gentleman from the USI.
Okay. Mr. Parsons?
Yeah, so Linda, the first time there were some items that weren't covered with USI with their proposal, with their price, and that's what we found when we did the first search committee with them. This time their proposal covered everything that we needed to know, and the price they submitted reflected that. As far as the difference in the price, that would be up to, and I think Ryan is there. He can answer that question.
You want to go to the podium?
Mr. Chair, do you mind?
Linda, is the microphone
I
up
think the
there?
microphone's still up there.
There's a little black.
That box?
Yes, that's a yes, yeah. So thank you, David. And
First of all, name.
I'm sorry,
Please.
Ryan Sharp, Vice President, Property and Casualty for our public entity practice with USI Insurance. Wanted to, out of our Allentown office, wanted to thank you, David, for the information. Chairman and commissioners, again, we appreciate this opportunity. This is what we live and breathe every day, is working with municipalities and public entities, helping them drive down their total cost of risk. And Linda, it's a great question that you had. The market has changed substantially since we reviewed this 2 years ago. And we're at a part where it's a hard market and where the availability is low and the prices have increased and the rates have increased. So we had some more information this time around. And we also, again, the market has shifted, so we had to account for that with our pricing. in terms of what we can do for the county. We believe that's still a very competitive fee to really help you where you are now, where your premiums essentially doubled. I believe they were 700,000 a couple of years ago. Now they're 1.6 million. So we're going to help you put a plan in place to help you drive that down. And it's safety, it's loss control, it's claims, it's carrier partnerships, it's program design, it's data analytics, which we do every day. So that's, I hope that answers your question.
Which of those things were you not proposing to do 2 years ago?
Well, it's really the market. The market pressures and the market has changed. And it's really, every line of coverage has increased.
So basically you were offering the same services 2 years ago, but
we were. It is. And the market has really predicted where that goes. And we had a little bit more information this time, which also helped. But it's really the market conditions and the market pressures that we're up against. Cyber liability has been up 30–40%. The law enforcement liability has increased because of, as you imagine, social inflation, social issues that we're dealing with. And property, auto, when there's an accident, it's just the market has really just gone a different direction. But we have a plan to help the county kind of mitigate those increases and put plans into place to help with your total cost of risk.
I have a question for you, Mr. Sharp. When you look at the county's current insurance coverages, et cetera, and premiums are involved, do you think there are places that can be reduced, the premium costs? Can our coverage be better? And how would you assess some of that?
We truly believe that, Chairman. We do. And as soon as we get more of your data, we can fine tune that number to you. But we do, just based on our partnerships with Lehigh County and what we were able to do there. And as Dave talked about our partnership with Travelers, that's one of our largest carrier partners that we work with. So that's really going to help in terms of our relationship, and also learning more about your program and how we can take it to the next level, right? Add certain coverages, maybe look at some limits, but again, not impacting the premium, right? Going back and negotiating and saying, hey, this is what's working for other counties we work with in the Commonwealth. Here's what we believe it should be. And we're not going to require a lot of premium to make that happen because of the partnership we have with Travelers, as having over $100 million in total written premium with them across our region. So I do believe there's opportunity for improvement, but I can't tell you for certain until we have the data and the copies of the policies, really.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Mr.
Could you speak a little bit about what exclusions there might be?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? Cyber, what we're seeing is a lot of multi-factor authentication issues with our public entity municipal clients. We're seeing third-party situations where the cloud server is impacted, and do you have enough business interruption coverage? If that were to happen, if you can't get to your system, that's really cyber. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot in terms of how the defense costs are set up or structured in the law enforcement, in terms of, is that handled by your solicitor, or should we work with a formula to have another outside, expert help us with that? So it really, Linda, there's so many areas that we're finding some holes out there, but I think those are really two of the main ones, right? Cyber, and it's the law enforcement, and it's the legal liability that's really, until we have that, that data.
All right, but I guess my question is really, what kinds of exclusions in coverage would there be?
Yeah, so for instance, cyber, you would have maybe it would be your waiting period, right? Or how long do you have to be out until the coverage kicks in? What we see on an off-the-shelf policy is, you have to be out of commission for about a week before you could call in coverage for that claim. The way that we structure it and we have numerous cyber carrier partners, is we would set that up for maybe an 8-hour waiting period versus, 3, 4, 5, 6 days where you're out of commission and you're working off pen and paper. So that's just one example. I mean, it's, that's one exclusion that we're seeing. Also, if for ransomware attacks, if you do not have training protocols, multi-factor authentication in place, right, that ransomware attack could be, denied, could be excluded. And that's where our claims people, our internal claims people in Allentown would jump in and work with you if you ever had a claim on that side of the house.
So when the policies are in place, do I then assume that your people would work with the county to inform them about what kinds of things need to be in place?
Yes, yes.
So that the coverage is valid when they get in?
Yeah, so what happens with all of these engagements with our public entity municipal clients is we take what you have now, we kind of deconstruct that. And here's where you are, but we deconstruct that and we build it back up by best in class and what we're doing for other counties in the Commonwealth. And then we'll come back to you and say, here's where you are now, right? Here's what you've been doing for a while. Here's where you need to be based on our knowledge, our relationships in the marketplace, based on our best in class model. And then we show you, here's the premium component, a savings, which we're going to try and fight for every day. But here's the exposure reduction potential that you're talking about. If you have a claim in this exposure area and you're with your current limit, you're underinsured or you're uninsured. And that's a place that you guys can't afford to be. So that's where we do. Here's where you are now. Here's where we believe, here's where we need to get you. And here's the premium savings, and here's the financial, the exposure reductions involved in that. And then we come and sit down with the team and say, let's do this. And let's work with travelers and other partners in the industry to get us where we need to be.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, one more question for you. It sounds like because you have a strong relationship, dollar-wise travelers, that they give you special rates. Is that possible?
Well, I'm not sure special rates, but it's a discussion to talk about how we could maybe get creative with some rating options.
Right, because that sounds a little bit like unfair labor practice.
But no, I mean, it's always a give and take, but it's a situation where, if we had an issue and we couldn't come to terms on something, we could, make a phone call and have a sit down with the travelers' key executives and say, you know what, here's what we think is going to work for everybody involved. And that's where it will help you as one of our clients. And then, but again, we're going to build this, we're going to kind of break it down and build it back up. So we have a perspective, a cleaner perspective for travelers. Because remember, in our industry, not every submission that's done to the carriers is done at a high priority first best in class method. So what we do is we work 6 to 9 months in advance of your renewal, and we're constantly working out, and we produce the best in class submission. So the underwriter looks at it and goes, you know what, this is a great submission. I'm going to put this at the top of my list. And this is going to help get us better pricing, better coverages, better terms than a sloppy last minute marketing summary that they look at and they go, you know what, I'm going to put this at the bottom. So we have a whole different process in terms of how we get out in front, right, of the marketing and the carrier partnerships to make sure that, you're not scrambling last minute with a 100% increase. And that's what's happened to some of the counties that we're trying to partner with, where they got hit pretty hard because of a reactive approach by other consultants like myself. But if you're working 6 to 9 months in advance and you're having discussions every month with the carrier or the travelers, hey, here's what's going on at the county. Here's what they're doing. It's great to help them prevent claims, but here's where they're having some issues. But let's get out in front of this and come up with the best strategy, the coverage, and the terms. So there's no drastic surprises when we present a renewal when you have a 100% increase. Okay. So it's a whole different model, and we look forward to working with you, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you for making the trip up tonight.
Oh, no worries at all.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Austin.
Yes, sir. Who is our current insurance broker?
Mr. Joyce's, Joyceman, I believe,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Well, I just want to make sure, because hats off to the selection committee, because I know they put a lot of work into this. I just want to make sure that all the council members, make sure you read page 87 of the packet. It says here, contacting other county officials, council members, or staff members as part of this process is not acceptable and is grounds for elimination for consideration for this process. So I would just hope that we don't see a repeat of last year when we had that October surprise, which was a political disgrace, that we had a very competent carrier who gave a lot of the same information that Mr. Sharp just outlined, and we forewent that for what seemed very, at that point, very obvious political purposes. So I want to make sure the council understands that they're contacted by other vendors, whoever they may be. It's not appropriate, just for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Moving down to number 6. I think everybody's aware, hopefully aware, that the manager search committee is having their first formal meeting tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock here. They have an agenda that has been posted on the webpage. I did not receive any of the communication from them. I would think that maybe after tomorrow's meeting, they may have some questions or comments or whatever to forward to us, but at this point, we don't have anything. And we will have an opportunity on each work session going forward. If they have comments or questions that they would like to present, they would have that opportunity. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, will be the first formal meeting. Number 7, we submitted the schedule last time we met 3 weeks ago. And the schedule is again part of your packet. Any questions or comments in that regard? Thank you. We had 2 inquiries. Mr. Haas had sent an inquiry regarding a sale of a property at 97-99 South Church Street in Hazleton. I provided some information, and then since I provided the information, there was also information that came from Elite Revenue Solutions that was forwarded out to council. Do anyone have any questions in regard to that clarification of that sale of property?
I could, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Mr. Haas.
Hey, thanks for putting on the agenda, and thanks for getting some information there. I did not see that. I didn't see that, get a chance to read that. I saw it in my box. But can you summarize that for the council and people listening at home, what we've shared with you?
Sure. There is a provision that allows for what they call a trump bid, which allows an authority, in this particular case, a redevelopment authority, to come in and bid on the property, and they do not have to pay the back taxes and penalties, etc. And they are able to get the property prior, actually, to the property being into the public sale. That's been done several times in the past. Municipalities, authorities, etc., have taken advantage of that quote-unquote trump bid, and that is the way in which it was purchased. And I think that was your question. I think you said it didn't seem to follow the normal procedure, and you are correct. It followed the procedure called the trump bid and not the normal public sale situation. Okay, Mr. Haas?
Right, yeah, thanks for that. I think the citizens that gave feedback there in public comment from the last meeting, I think the concern is that the city has not followed proper protocol in convening that board. And they're in violation of the Redevelopment Act of Pennsylvania. And I think, the mayor came here to council not too long ago and asked us to give tax abatements for that. And we said no. We said come back and work on your committee so it really adheres to state law. Well, that certainly didn't happen in that short span of time. And I think that's very troubling because, again, serving on the Blighted Property Review Committee, due process rights are like foundational to our constitutional republic here. And when that's violated, people lose out, even those who are delinquent on their taxes. And it seems to me from reading from the Standard Speaker that there were other potential buyers for that property. Yet the city came in, used the Trump bid in what it seems like in violation of the act of convening their own redevelopment, their own land bank, rather. Again, you heard what one citizen said before, the redevelopment authority, they had this in Pittston, but Pittston crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And I just see it flies in the face with the authority of this council that we're tasked with managing property for Luzerne County, those including the ones that are overseen by the Tax Claims Bureau. And so is this going to be an ongoing thing now? Are we going to see more properties be taken over by this land bank that really appears that it's not operating legally? It's a real concern I have. I'm all about getting rid of blighted properties, put them back on the rolls and get them developed. But come on, you got to do things by the book. And it just doesn't seem like it's followed here. And I want to know who's enforcing this. Is this Elite Revenue's responsibility to make sure that this newly created land bank adheres to state law, or are they just a pass through? Like, who has the enforcement authority?
Mr. Haas, it is not the land bank that did the bidding. It was a redevelopment authority. When the mayor had come to us in the past, that was dealing with the land bank, and that's when we rejected his request. But this is the redevelopment authority, which is a different entity. As far as the agent for the county is Elite Revenue Solutions. So they have a responsibility as the agent of the county to make sure it's done in the proper manner. Okay. Mr. Haas, the next item.
Sorry about that. I just want to say that the buck stops here, Mr. Chair, with us, as the 11 members of council with all matters of real estate, even if our agent works on our behalf like Elite does with the Tax Claim Bureau. So going forward, I would really hope that anybody interested in using a Trump bid or any other method to secure properties, that they follow due process law. But thank you.
I don't disagree with you. I think they should all follow the process, whatever it may be. Number 9, discussion regarding Mr. Haas's recommendation regarding the personnel policy. I've attached the email that I received from Mr. Haas on Friday morning. And you can see the information that was provided by Mr. Haas was information that would be language that would be added to the personnel policy under the safety amendment, which is 2.6. I had a discussion with Mr. Haas on Friday afternoon, right before we had our executive session. And I had a discussion with Mr. Haas yesterday around lunchtime when he was available. So, Mr. Haas, I told you that we would put this on, this information that you provided on the work session so you can begin the discussion. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And, regardless, this is never a fun one to talk about. It's extremely divisive. I acknowledge that. We have an obligation here at the federal level to say no to all forms of tyranny at whatever level of government. I see our governor's done quite a bit of those acts in my time on council, and it just seems like keeps on getting worse. I've gone through a lot of experiences here in my 10 years, and I've learned a lot about human nature and a lot about overreach in government. And this one, regardless of how you feel, this issue, first of all, it's a fundamental violation of human rights afforded by the Constitution. We can sit here around the table and talk about all the time about whether or not the vaccine is effective, but ultimately it's a person's body and a person's choice. You hear the mantra, my body, my choice, when regarding other issues. It's just a fundamental issue here. So when we look at this also at other entities around the country and other municipalities as well who are tasked with governing, we are seeing people not getting the vaccine and leaving work. And we're already in a very tough place to maintain our workforce, and every industry is during this time, because we keep on seeing other issues at play here as well. So fundamentally, it's an issue of people's personal freedom to deal with their own body, how they like to see fit, protecting our own county workers and giving them the authority to determine what is best for them. And this talks strictly about an experimental vaccine. You can't apply this to any other health measures out there, because this one, the normal course of approval, what I've had to do a lot of research on this, just like I always do. If you talk to a virologist, the average length of the testing period is like 3 years, 3.5 years. Well, this certainly doesn't meet that criteria. We still don't truly know what the side effects are of this experimental vaccine. I am personally not against the vaccine. If people want to get the vaccine, all the power to them. I think elderly people with health needs, most definitely should take a look at that. However, when you have to enforce this on people who have already had COVID, they have natural antibodies, And to have them revax when they already have a natural defense doesn't fit the science. And again, I know the manager, and I appreciate your, Milda, that you've said you would not enforce this on our county staff. I just want to make sure we memorialize it in here in words, just like we talked about the Flood Protection Authority earlier, to, again, protect the rights of our workers. And we also have remote working today. So there's just so many sides of this issue, but I just really think it's really important that we maintain those rights when we see this coming from above, and indeed from a president, from a governor, or from any manager. Okay, so I agreed, Mr. Chair, for you to put it on this work agenda, because I would like to see the solicitor's office truly craft an ordinance that would reflect it appropriately, that uses the language that I placed out there for everybody's reading, and that I'd like to see this introduced in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Mr. Corcoran, do you have a comment? I
do, and I do, and I want to thank Councilman Haas for his contribution to, trying to manage this novel virus. I can tell you this, and I believe everybody on council would agree, first and foremost, we want to make sure that the county staff is safe and working in a safe environment. I also fundamentally believe that we as individuals need to encourage people to get vaccinated. But at this point, where we are in the county government, I want to be clear. Since we instituted the mask mandate, we have had HR received 2 confirmed cases and 2 confirmed exposure cases. And I want to make sure that everyone on council and everybody who is listening knows that our HR department, when they get any kind of notification, they do the contact tracing, and they're very thorough at it. So whatever is happening in the county, and I watch the numbers just like everybody else. I watch the numbers every day. I watch the hospitalization rates. I watch the rates of infection, and they are going up in the community, in the county. But I have to say, in the county government, whatever we're doing is working. And I really have to applaud the county employees, because if they didn't cooperate and respect each other, we would have a bigger problem. So I believe I informed council that about 10 days ago, I asked the department heads to provide me with their plan should we have to go to remote working again. And I will get those plans tomorrow. I've already received some. I will review them, and I will share the plan with council. And this is just a plan. It doesn't mean that, I get these plans tomorrow and then Thursday we're going to enact this remote working. I have to look at them. I need to share it. And if we need to do it, I want to be able to do it in a very calm and reasoned fashion. I reached out to the courts, the district attorney's office, because we all have to work together on this, because that's the only way that this works. And I know that there was a directive from the president that does not apply to the county. It applies to the private sector, and we are not governed by OSHA. I don't know what's going to happen with this virus. If I did, I would do whatever I can to stop it. But having the employees reveal if they're vaccinated and have employees who are not vaccinated get testing, we're not at that stage at all. And I hope we don't have to get to that stage. If we have to get to that stage, then I think we have bigger problems as a community. But I will keep council informed every step of the way. I know there's rumors that everybody's waiting for me to issue some sort of directive that all county employees have to be vaccinated. We are not there. I will take all the suggestions of council. If council wants me to do some sort of survey of whether county employees are vaccinated, I will do that. But at this point, we're really in a very good place as a county government.
Thank you. Questions?
Vogue?
Yes, go ahead.
My only opinion on this is, Mr. Haas, you mentioned that the picking of the insurance carrier last year is very political. But your argument of your body, your choice seems to be a little bit more political than picking an insurance carrier. That's just my thoughts on this.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to say that, you know, some people don't think they should have to wear seatbelts, but that's a government mandate. And I think that, I don't see the need to add any language like this into the personnel policy. I think that's going to be a management decision as to how best protect the workers. And personal rights are one thing, but public safety is a whole other thing.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Public comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Members of the public?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Rabo speaking.
Go ahead, Mr. Rabo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards to the purchase by the, I guess you stated that it was the Hazleton Redevelopment Authority that purchased the parcel in Hazleton. Well, according to the judicial sale receipt here that I'm reading, it says the City of Hazleton Land Bank that purchased the property, not the Hazleton Redevelopment Authority. So I don't know who gave you that information that it was the Hazleton Redevelopment Authority, but it's incorrect. It was the City of Hazleton Land Bank, which has no board. And I don't believe, because I put in a right to know request, I don't believe there's any meeting minutes that show where the board, interim or permanent board, voted on the purchase. So once again, I strongly would suggest the Office of Law, you guys have the Office of Law look into this, because I don't believe this is a valid purchase. And if the deed transfer goes through, the county would be put in a very precarious situation legally, because the property owner of that property would be looking at a due process infringement. So I would be tread very cautiously here, Mr. Chairman and members of council, because this is, as the acting county manager, when she was chief county solicitor, could tell you, the current acting chief county solicitor could tell you, Councilwoman Simon could tell you as an attorney, due process is not to be trivialized with or dismissed. So I think that this needs to be looked into. I hope that you might have the real estate committee look at this, because something doesn't seem right here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rabel.
Yes.
Are you still there, Mr. Rabel?
Yes, I'm still here.
I know that building sat vacant for many years after that fire. Who actually paid to have that building knocked down?
That was the Community Development Department of the City of Hazleton that paid, I believe, an emergency bid out of the Community Development Block Grant money. I believe it was a little over $80,000 that was paid. And the mayor said that at the city council meeting when he divulged that the city land bank purchased the parcel at the judicial sale.
Okay.
Mr. Rabel, and I'm not defending the city of Hazleton, and I agree that they should have had a committee set up before they came to us, whatever, 2 weeks ago or a month ago.
A while ago, yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to clarify it was the because I think that owner was notified many times, and it just went on deaf ears that those notices were going there, he was not doing anything.
Well, the city could do
But
what
you're
West
saying the
Hamilton Borough.
redevelopment, the
The city
Hazleton
could-
redevelopment knocked that down then.
No, it was the community
Community
development office. It was the community development
Okay,
office.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Other members of the public? We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Ms. Howe?
Second.
Mr. Perry, all in favor? Indicate saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition, any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Good night.